Hello, I'm Eric Singer, and this is City Chat, a conversation with the mayor. And joining us, as always, Mayor John Suthers, thank you so much, and co-host Billie, Stanton, Anleu, our city government reporter at the Gazette. And Billie, let's start our questioning.
Okay, Mayor, we would like to know on the Magellan Strategies survey that you worked with Colorado Springs Forward to get going. There was a reference to 38% of all sales tax money coming from outside of the city. And we're wondering, what is the genesis of that statistic, which some people have questioned?
Well, it's a number that has been the city's used for some time now, and it's based on the following calculations. 18% of our sales tax revenue comes from people who live in El Paso County, outside the city, who shop in the city. And think about it, a full third of the residents of El Paso County live outside the city. They make their major purchases in the city of Colorado Springs, cars, refrigerators, things like that. We know what their average taxable expenditures are a year through various surveys.
In the city?
Yeah, how much they spend total, and what proportion of that they spend in the city.
Okay.
And that's where the 18% comes from. Then 20% is spent by people from outside El Paso County, some from other places in Colorado, some from other states who come here. The Convention and Visitor Bureau has known for years, they do surveys every year of the spending habits of tourists. And the interesting and good thing about tourists is their expenditures are very high intensive, sales taxable. You know, they eat out every night. In fact, they eat out most every meal. They're staying in lodging every night that's taxable. And we know what the average tourist spends in Colorado Springs that's taxable, and we can calculate what percentage of the total sales tax is from them. So frankly, given the increase in tourism right now, we think the total 38% number is on the conservative side.
Okay, interesting. So when we look at the 0.62% sales tax increase that we're proposing, that the city is proposing for roads fixes, 38% of that extra money will be brought in, at least 38% from your
Right, about 20% from tourists and about 18% from residents of El Paso County who live outside the city, because almost a third of the population of El Paso County lives outside the city but does a great deal of their shopping inside Colorado Springs.
Okay, and then the other number that comes up from the Magellan survey that piqued some interest from some of our readers was the $100 a year is what it will cost a city resident extra in order to provide this remedy for the roads. And where does that number, from whence does that number spring?
That's not rocket science. We're able to figure out by what our sales tax take is from inside the city of Colorado Springs, what the average consumer, the average household in Colorado Springs spends on taxable items, multiply that by 0.62. And that gets you what they'll be spending on this tax increase.
Per household?
Per
Even
household.
if I have 5 people in my household?
It averages out.
It's
going to be an average of $100 per household.
Okay, interesting. All right. And then the other major infrastructure need, of course, is stormwater. And can you run by us one more time? You have vowed, you and, well, the city council seems to be right in concert with you on this, have vowed to provide the downstream users, Pueblo County, with $19 million a year worth of stormwater projects up here to ameliorate some of those really bad effects downstream. And I know that the citizens of Pueblo, the leaders from the Pueblo City Council, were very glad to hear that there's a serious commitment in Colorado Springs to remedy this situation. Where are you going to get that $19 million this year? I know that the skip bond you have retiring skip bonds, you have $3 million coming from utilities. And can you go over one more time where the rest will come from this year and next year?
This year, $5 million will come from the maturing of skip bonds. Another $3 million will be the city's expenditure that we've been spending consistently each year pursuant to our requirements under what's called an MS4 permit, water quality permit, which
Okay.
relates to stormwater. Another $3 million from utilities. So this year, I'm going to have to, and the council's going to have to find an additional $8 million in the budget, which is going to be a tough go. I mean, that's why we're talking about no raises. We're going to have to defer some other needed maintenance on city buildings and everything, because $8 million will come from the existing budget. Beginning next year, another $3 million becomes available from the maturing of the skip bonds. So in future budgets, we only have to find that additional $5 million, but this year we have to find $8 million.
Okay, and then in it, besides deferring some capital projects, freezing raises, will there be gains through attrition? If people leave, they might not be replaced immediately?
That's very possible too. We have a policy in the city that when anybody retires or leaves, you have to justify filling their position, and that's an appropriate thing to do. Now, the vast majority, that's going to be pretty easy to do. When a policeman or a fireman leaves, typically there's a good case for why we have to fill that position because we had it in the first place. But we're going to do that throughout the city because, you know, some technologies change and things like that, and sometimes somebody who's been there a long time might retire and may be able to do some reorganization. Believe me, a lot of that's going on to produce that additional $8 million this year and $5 million in each year ongoing.
Okay, thank you.
Now, one of the topics that just a moment ago that Billie touched on specifically talked about the roads. And one of our Facebook viewers, David Mullen, asked, once again, if you would, Mayor, and if you would address David, please describe the plan that you endorse to repair and continually maintain city roads and streets.
The council has referred to the ballot on an 8-to-1 vote a measure that would increase the sales tax for 5 years only, 0.62%. It would generate approximately $50 million a year, or $250 million over 5 years. Our problem is that 60% of our roads at this point in time are in a rapidly deteriorating condition. They're under the pavement quality index, is poor condition. They're past the 10-year average lifespan, declining rapidly. If we're able to apply $50 million a year over the next 5 years, we can greatly improve that situation to the point where perhaps 35 to 30% of our roads are in a poor condition. But at least it's in the ballpark compared to the situation that we're in right now. The other things you have to know about that sales tax, there'd be no new city employees hired. All that work would be outsourced. Number two, a lot of the sales tax, as Billie pointed out, 38% approximately would be raised, would come from people outside the city of Colorado Springs. Finally, the city will have a maintenance of effort commitment. We're spending about $18.5 million on road improvements now. Unfortunately, that's only getting us about, less than 2% of the roads resurfaced. But 16 million, what's important to know of that, is from our share of the PPRTA maintenance funds that legally have to be spent on road maintenance. So the voters can be assured that we'll continue to spend that on road maintenance. And we've asked the city auditor to determine our average spending over and above that over the last couple of years, and we'll commit to spending that. And it's going to be about $18.5 million total that we'll continue to spend, and then over and above, if the tax is approved, that $50 million. And with that, we can impact about 46% of the roads in Colorado Springs in the next 5 years, either with an overlay or with a chip and seal.
All right, thank you very much, and thank you, David, for your question. And finally, you have this moment so that you can address the citizens of Colorado Springs with your thoughts as we get closer to those 90 days you've been in office, or something else that you'd like to express to them now.
My priorities that I set in the campaign and have been very vehement about is, number one, change the political environment in Colorado Springs by a much more collaborative relationship between the mayor and the council. I feel like we've made a lot of progress on that. We're communicating well. We're not always going to agree, but it's very respectful. I'm spending a lot of time with the council, and I think that the citizens will notice. They don't have a bunch of articles in the newspaper about the dysfunction between the mayor and the council. I think we've made a lot of progress. Number two, we are addressing this infrastructure problem. We're giving the voters a chance to deal with the road problem, and we're trying to deal with the legal and public safety issues arising from stormwater in the manner that Billie and I discussed. And third, I'm working extremely hard in terms of trying to take advantage of the new political climate, our commitment to infrastructure, to parlay that into new job creation. I'm spending a lot of time with companies that are here that are thinking about expanding, companies out of a state or out of the city that are thinking about possibly moving to Colorado Springs, and basically making a case for why they should expand or move to Colorado Springs. And I feel relatively optimistic about the future, particularly if we can exhibit to them that we're willing, as citizens of Colorado Springs, to make an investment in the infrastructure of the city.
All right. Thank you very much, Mayor, for being here for City Chat. And thank you, Billie, of course, as well. City government reporter with the Gazette, Billie Stanton Anleu. And thank you for watching. And this has been City Chat, a conversation with the mayor where we go beyond the sound bites. We'll see you next time.